Thank you all for joining us. Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go live to Washington. Cassie Smedley joining us from the Republican National Committee. Cassie, good to have you with us.
Hey, Kevin, great to be with you.
So what a day it was yesterday for people just tuning in. Maybe they caught a little of the, I don't know if you'd call it a triple threat match between Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, the president. I guess you throw in the vice president as well, ma'am.
Yes, the vice president who was looking on, making sure that everyone remained on their side.
Right.
It was another masterful day of putting on a show by the president. I think Chuck and Nancy came over, and they certainly weren't expecting the extended time in front of the cameras. You saw that they kept saying, let's do this behind closed doors. Let's do this without the cameras, which I know a lot of folks really thought was extra precious, that they didn't want to be out in front of the public, out and transparent with this process. But I thought the president was great. Look here for everyone to see. This is where they are. This is their term. And the thing that they underestimated is that there's a great swath of the American people who say, shut it down. We're not going to get nothing, or we're not going to stand for Congress doing nothing anymore. And the other piece of that is that the president knows this. Congress has funded most of the government, and he can make essential what other pieces that he needs, including our border agents. So I think he is taking advantage of this last moment before Democrats move into the majority in the House to put it all on the line and get the best possible deal.
Well, it's got to be a challenge for the president. On one hand, he's the ultimate deal maker. On the other, these folks on one hand say, we want to work with you, and then they're talking about indicting him and making all these unsubstantiated allegations. It's a challenge.
Absolutely. That's a fine line to walk, of course, because they're frenemies, right?
Right.
They can all say, oh, we're friends, see, we get along, and the president tried to say that several times. And yeah, you're absolutely right. That's what they go back and do, or at least go back and sit back while members of their caucus do this. And the other thing you have to remember, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer both have been in leadership long enough where they've had majorities, minorities, or they've had the White House or not, and they've had any number of opportunities to get border security done. In fact, they proposed a border security funding bill not too long ago. They walk away from it time and time again. You can't help but think that it's because it's more politically advantageous for them not to have this done, because then they get something to talk about. So I love that the president is going, let's let the people see your unwillingness to work on this. Let's let that be out there for everyone to see, because no matter what you say, we see what you do. And so I still think ultimately this is going to work in the president's favor in terms of getting something done, or more than the Democrats are initially offering.
Well, you take a look at what the president's up against, the lame duck Congress, and then, the wild speculation, whether it's Jerry Nadler, whether it's Nancy Pelosi, whether it's Maxine Waters, the usual suspects. And you talk about the impact it could have on the economy, on the markets. I think we're already seeing that. And as Sean Hannity would say, Cassie, we're in for a wild 2 years, it would appear.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but here's what and I can't remember if you and I have talked about this yet, but I keep looking to January 3rd, that first day where they vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker on the floor of the House. On that day, you're going to get a pretty good look at how the next 2 years are going to go. And you're going to see if a lot of these freshman Democrats who campaigned on voting against Nancy Pelosi, who campaigned on against any sort of impeachment process, baseless, of course, and campaigned for getting something done and going to Washington and being an effective representative for their constituents, you're going to know a lot about how the next 2 years are going to go based on that first vote for Speaker. If they vote for Nancy Pelosi, all bets are off. If they don't, and if she has a tough time getting the speakership, there might be a glimmer of an opportunity to get some things done, because you see some folks who are putting their need to have something to write home about so they can get reelected ahead of 2 years of investigation after investigation. But we'll see. I'm got my popcorn ready. I'm looking forward to that day and that vote.
Cassie Smedley joining us from the RNC on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Now, I'm going to ask you a personal question. You go, oh, no, not this crazy Kevin Miller. Don't worry. It's above board. On the weekends, do you ever get any time away, or are you focused on, because it's part of your job, watching the Sunday shows?
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, the Sunday shows take up a pretty good part of Sunday
Sure.
morning.
No, I totally understand and can relate to that. And I'm watching one Sunday show in particular. Well, two. It was Martha Raddatz in for George, and of course Chuck Todd hates the president, where you have people on the panel saying the Democrats have no choice but to impeach the president, even though on State of the Union with Jake Tapper, you've got Jerry Nadler going, yes, it looks that way, even though he specifically can't point to any impeachable offenses.
That's actually, I don't know if you happen to see the panel right after the election. They brought in several members-elect, including Dan Crenshaw from Texas, the one who made all the news on Saturday Night Live. And they were saying, well, what is it about the president? They were having this very conversation. What is the basis for impeaching or even bringing up these types of investigations? And so, well, it's his tone. It's, the words he uses. They're basically saying
Right.
that doesn't rise to what you're suggesting here. You need to go back and read your Constitution. And in fact, I don't know who the member-elect was, a Democrat, but she said, he's literally has attacked the media. And Dan Crenshaw, who, of course, is the one who lost his eye and is a war hero, said, no, I literally have been attacked. So let's use our words carefully. And it's just that they try and make fodder day after day after day because they don't like his tone. Well, all right, but let's look at what he's doing. And on that, you got to give him credit. But it's really incredible. And again, I mean, you're out in the country. I wish I could get out there more often than I do to get back home. But people don't want to see this for the next 2 years. They want to see their government work and people fighting for them and not just against the president. I think Democrats are going to have a tough time holding on to their majority in the House if this is how they choose to spend the next 2 years.
Well, and let's face it, in 2 more years, the president will be on the ballot. That will be a big difference. You're going to have folks that have had 2 years of liberal records that the Republicans will be running against. And, Cassie, as you know, historically the midterms are tough, but when you have the record number of retirements, look, the president did very well. The Republican Party did very well, particularly in the Senate. When we take a look at any type of wall legislation, how do you see this playing out? Will there be a compromise, or, will Nancy play the hits?
Well, I'm still very optimistic about a compromise. We've seen it several times before now from the president. Remember, he started out, he wanted the one big swath of funding for the wall, and now he's been pretty successful in getting smaller increments of funding, and I think that's what we'll see here again. And I think that's totally fine to do it that way because then he always has that card to play. But I do think in this instance, the president thinks this is his best chance, maybe for the next 2 years, to get a large sum. And I think he's going to run a tough negotiation on this. But I think Nancy Pelosi knows that she's got leverage, but not that much. And she needs to set up an avenue for them to work together in the future. And I think something will happen in this instance in order to foster that relationship in the future.
What are we looking for in the first month of the new year? And I guess when everybody leaves, the nation's capital will actually shut down for a while?
Well, we hope we're avoiding that shutdown with this negotiation. But yeah.
Well, no, I mean people going on vacation, not the government shutting down. My bad on that.
Oh, yeah. These days it's hard to tell which way we're talking about. But yeah, certainly D.C. kind of shuts down for the holidays, and I think most Americans appreciate that. Things seem to calm down, take a deep breath when everybody goes home, spend some time with their family and constituents, and get some perspective. So that'll happen, and then again, that vote, that very first day in office, everyone will get sworn in, and then they'll take that vote for speaker. Again, that's going to tell us a lot about how this is going to go. I'm not naive. I think Democrats won't be able to help themselves, and they're going to launch investigations that are going to tie up a lot of time. But it will really be up to the American people to call your member of Congress and say, hey, knock it off. We got work to do. We got things we need you to do. But I'm optimistic that there will be opportunities to get things done because we still got a really strong Senate. And Mitch McConnell and the president, although stylistically very different people, have forged a very strong relationship and ability to get things done. And so I think if the House spends their time on investigations, they're going to not notice all of the things that the Senate is going to work through and get done. with the, again, judges, deregulation, all these types of things that they were able to do last Congress that people hardly noticed until they did.
Final question for you. Who's going to be the minority leader in the House, do you think? Can you handicap that race? Any thoughts?
It seems to me that it's a pretty solid favor for Kevin McCarthy from California. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a robust debate and conversation on it, but that seems to be the general thinking. And he's been an incredible fundraiser and a really good rallier for young guns and recruiting new candidates in his past, and I think that's where we need to be. We realize we got to put an extra emphasis on getting new people to run for Congress. So I think he's got a lot of support, and I suspect that'll be the outcome. It's hard to hear you say minority leader. I had to think for a minute.
No, I know. We were thinking of Nancy Pelosi for years, and that's a good thing,
right.
and hopefully it'll be back to that. But, Jim Jordan has been fielding quite a contest as well, so I just wanted your insight on that. So the smart money would be on McCarthy.
Yeah, but also note that that McCarthy and Jim Jordan, I imagine, are working together. There will not be whoever gets it, which again I think it'll be McCarthy, but I don't think it'll be a contentious thing. They'll work together, and they'll carve out some room for space for both, I imagine. So, but you're right to bring that up.
All right, and coming up. Any thoughts on the Google hearing? I know I'm keeping you over a little, but that was so delicious yesterday. We didn't even get a chance to address it. Where Google's meeting before the House, the Republicans and the Democrats, and one side says there's no censorship, and the other side is just raring to go. I'm wondering if we'll see any type of action towards possibly going after these big tech giants because of censorship to conservatives.
Right. I mean, unfortunately, it's hard given that it's the end of the Congress. Maybe the Senate can bring him in as well and do something. But it was really a scene from the little bits I saw of it. Admittedly, I didn't see the whole thing, but that he was saying we have no bias. We are just above board. And we've seen censorship, I mean, just in our own people, but even his employees have written letters to their fellow employees and emails saying as much. So they got to figure that out, or else I do think that it is incumbent on Congress to force their hand to figure it out. And I think that's what we're seeing across the board with these tech companies. They have to decide what they're going to be. Are they just going to be a social media apparatus or a tech company, or are they going to step up and publicly admit the stronghold that they have over the American people and really beyond American people in our conversations, and be properly regulated. I hate to use that word, but they've got to decide what they are. And I know that it's they don't. In Facebook, I'm moving away from Google, but Mark Zuckerberg has always shied away from admitting they're more than just a social media platform because he knows that means a lot more social responsibility. And I think it's the same with Google too. So it'll be interesting to see where this all goes in the future, but hard to say what we can do now at the end of Congress and the House. So that'll be for the Senate to have to figure out, I think.
Cassie, we appreciate you. If we don't talk to you, Merry Christmas.
Hey, thank you. Same to you. Always great to be with you.
Okay. Have a good day.
You too.
There we have it. Cassie Smedley joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Now, coming up, the 5 most ridiculous moments in yesterday's Google hearing. Plus, we will take a look at, we'll start with a couple things. We have Pelosi, Schumer versus President Trump, Vice President Pence. We'll give you you'll hear that sound there. You can tell when I get excited because I go, don't mean to do that. It's just one of those things. And the Google CEO yesterday dodging 21 questions on the Chinese and their search engines. We've got a lot to do. Hey, let's not be alone. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up next, your reaction to Chuck and Nancy versus the president. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. You know, sometimes I don't know if we should rename the mission statement of this show, just exposing the posers, if you will, right? And that's what really the president has done. He's exposed the posers. You know what a poser is? A perpetrator, somebody pretending to be something they're not. And what we've seen from the Republicans in the House, in the Senate, when it comes to putting up or shutting up, they simply shut up. It's kind of like one of my favorite tools in sales. Now, I believe that everybody is in sales, whether you're trying to convince your kids to go on a vacation, whether you're trying to get them to, rake the leaves or shovel the snow, whether you're trying to convince your spouse this is the right move. Everyone is in sales. And I know what people say, oh, I hate sales, but deeply inside we admire people that can sell. They have that gift. Some people work at it. Some people stumble into it. And some people in sales, they embrace it. We had a young lady last week saying that her dad makes a great living selling, and she's going to do that. And there's just that special kind of confidence. And one of my favorite things, and it's from Zig Ziglar, it's called the takeaway close. And really, what the takeaway close is what the president's doing when he's talking about the wall. Look, if you don't give me the wall, I'm just going to not do the budget. And the problem or the challenge with the takeaway close is you just take away the offer. And 9 times out of 10, people will, no, I want this. Well, this may not be for you. And when we take a look at the Republicans, there's no reason why this wall shouldn't have been built. And when people say, I want a wall, no, they don't. This program, thanks to you, has been there supporting conservative causes. And we know we make people nervous. We make people in the establishment nervous. Why? I don't know. I think it's a fun way to start the morning. When we call the libs, the devious little libs, the DLL, we do so in a fun, thought-provoking way. Because we want to make sure that our thoughts, our views aren't marginalized. And that's very important in America today when you have the overwhelming power of the media sitting there, standing down, trying to take us down. So what I'm trying to say is this wall is very important, but it's not very important to members of the Democrat and Republican Party establishment. People can claim they want the wall, but, we put it out there. We have William Geen on, who's been banned from more radio stations than he's on. We go to FAIR because they realize the work that you do here in the Treasure Valley, how important you are, the audience is. People can pander and such, but it comes down to standing up for what is right. Standing up and being called names, as I have been called a right-wing extremist. The station has been maligned and slandered for simply stating that we don't want an open border policy. That if you come into America, you come into America legally. That if you come into America, we need you to speak the language. That if you want to get a driver's license in Idaho or Utah, you do it in English. You assimilate, which is the way the country was until 1965. And that's what President Trump is trying to do to bring it back. And he's correct to do that. You talk to anyone who is legally come into this country, it is a Byzantium, horrible experience. It costs money. If I had to spend 5, 10, 20, however many thousands of dollars to legally come to America and to be a U.S. citizen, I'd be at the front of the wall building up the gates to make sure people didn't come in illegally. No, and the DACA and the Dreamers, only in post-Barack Obama's America could we seek to legalize folks through an unconstitutional way to pacify a political voting bloc, although if you're not here legally, I don't know how you can vote. I simply don't get it. I simply do not understand it. And that's what's at stake. And we've had 2 years of a big majority in the House and a small majority in the Senate to get this done. Now, coming up, the president will, in fact, explain his position. We've got a lot of quality time to share with you. So we will do that. We will take your calls on it at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Plus, our reporters from Fox. And we do want to talk about what happened at Google yesterday on the House. Very compelling stuff. Google saying they don't censor. One political party saying, you're right, you don't censor. Well, if you're a lib, of course you don't censor.
Not threaten to shut down the government because let me just finish, because you can't get your way.
The last time you shut it down, you got killed.
Let me say something, Mr. President. You just say my way or we'll shut down the government.
If it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It is very good border security.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It's what the
Because when you look at these numbers of the effectiveness of our border security, and when you look at the job that we're doing
you
with
just
our
said
military,
it is effective.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, you just said
without
it's
a wall, these are only areas where you have the walls.
We want to do
where
this.
you have walls, Chuck, it's effective. Where you don't have walls, it is not effective.
He is correct. Traffic and weather together. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM. And I'm Kevin Miller. Coming up, we'll check in with our friends from Fox. We'll hear from the president, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and you. Our numbers, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Have a debate with you about saying we confront some of those facts without...
You know what? We need border security. That's what we're going to be talking about, border security. If we don't have border security, we'll shut down the government. This country needs border security. The wall is a part of border security. Let's have a talk. We're going to get the wall built, and we've done a lot of wall already.
There we have it, the Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, President Trump show. More on that coming up. By the way, the Idaho House and Senate approved a housing stipend for the new governor, $4,500 a month, $54,000 a year, to augment the salary of $138,000 to be Idaho's chief executive officer. I don't know. I think it would be better if we just built a governor's mansion, personally. I know most states have them. Few states do not, but think about this. You could build a nice little home for $200,000, and you would save that continual stipend that you give Governor Otter and now the governor-elect Brad Little. Just my own personal thoughts on that. Your phone calls coming up. First, we go to Rachel Sutherland, Fox News Radio. Good morning, Rachel.
Hello. How are you?
I don't know where we should begin here on KIDO Talk Radio. We've got the Google stuff, which would really be blowing things up if we didn't have the quadruple threat match yesterday between the incoming Speaker of the House, supposedly, Chuck Schumer, the minority leader, the Vice President, and the President. What was the aftermath of that televised debate?
I think it's still reverberating, I should
Right.
say. This was something we haven't seen before, but not entirely unexpected, except that the cameras are rolling. And we're kind of not naive in believing that possibly both sides didn't mind the cameras rolling, although Nancy Pelosi at one time said we should come back when the press isn't here. But both sides would be playing to their base quite a bit. The president saying he wants that $5 billion for the border wall, or else the government will shut down. And Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer saying that they want to do a continuing resolution, which would send us into next year. That is not what the president wants, because with a Democrat-controlled House, they're going to be in no mood to negotiate with the president on border wall funding.
Right. And is that really what it comes down to, the big impasse here?
It really appears to, Kevin. This is something that Democrats have said that they are not willing to do. I mean, they've said before that perhaps they would give some money in exchange for a fix for the Dreamers, the DACA recipients, those who were brought here by their parents illegally. But now it appears even more that Nancy Pelosi is digging in her heels, saying that a border wall is immoral, and that she doesn't want to do that. Now, she's the likely incoming Speaker of the House. Right now, with the House and Senate still controlled by Republicans, I guess maybe the president has a shot at getting it through the House, but there's a legislative filibuster in the Senate, which would raise the vote threshold to 60, and that would mean at least 9 or so Democrats would need to come over, and at this point, it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Indeed, the president, or Chuck Schumer, yapping a little bit about that yesterday. When we take a look at how this is going to get done, how close do you think we'll come to a government shutdown?
I think we're going to come very close, or it could actually happen. Because we've had already this year a government shutdown earlier in January, remember, on the anniversary of President Trump taking office. It lasted 3 days over the same issue. And then there was one, if you'll remember, in February that lasted only 9 hours. Everyone slept through it. And they've passed bills to avert shutdowns before. There was a longer-term spending bill that the president said that he would never sign anything like that again. Now we have the deadline of December 21st at 11:59:59 for this to get done, or we could see that. And it could be like in January where you saw the government shut down for 3 days. You could have, okay, it shuts down, say, on midnight on the 22nd, and maybe they have this Christmas miracle and it reopens on Christmas Eve or something like that.
Or it could shut down on Festivus, for all I know. What a way to
exactly.
What a way to end the year. Are people getting ready for the new Congress coming in? Are people moving out? I mean, you've been through these cycles so many times.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, they have been. They've been. There was at one time supposed to be some kind of an office lottery where you would get your offices. So, for example, of course, House Speaker Paul Ryan moving out, and we're assuming that Nancy Pelosi will be moving in, but we don't know yet. And then some of the junior members of Congress get the not so nice offices with no windows, and the people who are there with more seniority get the nicer offices. So yeah, they're moving out. There are roller bags and people coming in, and there was some orientation going on and so on. But I think right now this lame duck Congress is trying to get this done as far as just funding the government. They don't have that much to do left except for just keeping the lights on. And it's unclear whether that's going to happen. But when it comes to the holidays, if there's a shutdown, oftentimes lawmakers will stay behind. So the pressure's on. They want to go home for the holidays too. So, and sometimes they'll work all night long. I mean, we've seen this before.
Rachel Sutherland, to always be continued. Thank you.
Thanks.
Rachel Sutherland, Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Liberal Steve joins us now. Good morning, Liberal Steve.
Mexico's going to build the wall, and they're going to pay for it, too. Come on. Well, when they shut the government down, they won't have any federal employees to watch the border. Well, that's right. When they shut the government down, they pick and choose. I thought that was a great Shakespeare yesterday there in the White House between Schumer and Nancy and the president. Oh, the president he played the fool that he is, the idiot that he is, the big I'm a bully that he is. That's lie number 5,000 repeated now another 30 times. And people like you, Kevin Miller of 580 KIDO, keep washing his back for him while he sits in the tub because I don't want to make Daddy mad. Good golly. That was great. He has sunk his ship so bad now he'll be out of there so fast. Go ahead and shut it down, Mr. President. Go ahead and shut it down. We'll pick and choose. What are they going to shut down? All the poor people, the people that work in the park that don't make any money anyway? That's what they did last time. They're going to shut down the post office. Everything comes by snail mail. I'm so glad we got free enterprise with Google and everybody else so this government BS come to a halt. Schumer was sure snickering. Nobody caught the smile on his face when he got him all riled and got him going.
To quote Terry from State College, Pennsylvania, do we need this garbage first thing in the morning?
Terry, you're supposed to set your garbage out early in the morning just in case the garbage people show up early. We're not going to tell you that again, Terry.
I think he was talking about you.
No, I think he was talking about you. You see, that's just it, Kevin. You can't interpret things right. He was talking about you, not me. And Terry, you sure look good in all those pictures sitting by Kevin Mayer. How many you got there on YouTube and all over now? A couple million? You got any other listeners besides Terry?
You.
Oh, that's right. I am a listener. So what do you got to say for yourself about that, Miller? And I try and tell you the lies yesterday, and you hang up on me. I told you.
Well, we've got Tom Munns coming up next. I'm sure he'll have a lot to say. Do you have any comments for Tom?
I'm really proud of Tom, the way he let Hank off the hook pretty darn easy, the way Hank slammed him. I mean, Hank he thinks he's just a walking historian, and history repeats itself, yes, but not totally. I mean, come on. And nobody talks about this girl from Colorado that's missing. Nobody talks about China putting this big moon in the sky. Nobody talks about that right now, today, China is revolving around the Mars and going to land the rover here that they're going to walk around on the dark side. Everybody's talking about the idiot.
Well, and
mirrors.
speaking of
Smoke
which,
and mirrors.
Terry from State College, Pennsylvania on KIDO Talk Radio says Village Idiot Hour in its usual form.
How come Terry always sends you emails and you read them? I send you tons of emails.
I find them entertaining.
Terry's?
Yes, especially when you're on.
I have visions of you and Terry on ice skates wearing tutus holding hands. I don't know why that comes to me all the time.
Maybe you're projecting.
I hope he shuts it down.
Maybe you wish you were Terry.
You know, maybe the government will get a taste of, you know, we're going to bring jobs to Ohio. There are people, you don't tell your
I
house,
think you
don't
better
tell
start
nothing.
getting on your hemp here this morning.
Kevin, you see, that's just it. You switch and bait and switch. Either way, smoke and mirrors. I'm telling the truth, and you jump on some crazy hemp thing.
I don't know what you've had in your hemp this morning, but it is time to go.
I don't know what you had in your coffee. I know, it's the air you were breathing coming down that State Street.
Well, as always, we enjoy your spirited insight and debate.
As always, Mr. Miller, I love you and I love your callers, even the ones that get on my case. And we are Americans, but
and we love the president.
Right, but we're not going to get a wall. That's not going to happen.
You heard it here first.
Oh,
yes.
He's going to sneak. He's going to do it, though. I'm predicting that right now. You know how he's going to do it?
How?
That extra $1 billion at the last second he had him throw into the budget for the Pentagon, the military. He's going to take that and call it a construction fund. You stay fired up, Miller.
Coming up next, Tom Munns with some insight about law enforcement. Plus your calls, your reaction to the showdown yesterday between Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Mike Pence, President Trump, and if you'd like to comment on what Liberal Steve said, from the Chinese building a wall around Mars to some type of supermoon to, I can't really remember what he said. Can you? Kevin Miller, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning. Joining us now, Tom Munns, TomMunns.com. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Kevin. Hey, I was listening to the tail end of your conversation about law enforcement, and I wanted to share a couple of thoughts with you. A couple of things that I start off with first are going to be things that you've heard me say before, but I hope you let me finish. The idea of militarized law enforcement is really something that would be inconsistent with freedom. Increased militarized law enforcement and increased exposure is actually contrary to Sir Robert Peel's proclamation for law enforcement. Military police increasingly shows they are masters over the people rather than to serve. Political enemies like constitutionalists have been defined as a form of enemy combatant or anti-government by the very people they serve. And ironically, it was law enforcement that took the oath, not us. But in the last 2 years, that's been the rhetoric and the mantra that I've talked about. But over the last several years, I've taken time to meet with law enforcement, understand that a lot of them feel like the same way you and I do. But I understand what they have to go through on a day-to-day basis, and I'm in a position to be able to say now that I understand why they feel like they need the militarization. When our nation that used to be moral and religious is now neither. I mean, we don't even love God and love our neighbors ourselves anymore. And so when you have dangerous factions and political enemies and the truth has become relative, there's an increased need for safety. Like I said, there's many that believe like we do. But this is why it's important that people are involved in their government. And the problem is that governments throughout history have used in the name of safety to implement totalitarian control. And ironically, if people don't know the limits of government or continue to limit their authority, then will be no exception. And here's the thing that I want to bring home. If constitutionalists didn't exist, government would know no bounds. And so, we started a Support Your Local Police Committee a couple of years ago. If you guys are interested, you can join. It's interesting to be able to understand the world of pragmatism as it sort of parallels or opposes one of altruisms. And so it's a really interesting, it's a delicate walk. It's a very sensitive walk. But we're moving in towards a totalitarian state. And when people really don't understand the master-servant relationship and the people don't understand or they're derelict in their duty, I mean, government by nature tends to grow because it's part of the human, the human condition, they say. But I'm hoping you'll allow me to do this. We have a conspiracy presentation on Thursday at 7 o'clock, this Thursday at Meridian City Hall. So if anybody has a problem with understanding what conspiracy is and conspiracy theory, 7 o'clock, Meridian City Hall. The event is free. Kevin, I hope you'll take time to show up. It's an interesting look through history and exactly all the conspiracies are and how they actually defined and separated from conspiracy and conspiracy theory. So
I've been hearing about this on the Facebook, Tom.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome history. I mean, we go back all the way to biblical conspiracy. We pick out different conspiracies through different forms of government. We talk about some of the issues that involve even America. We talk about the Illuminati and about the fact that it was real, and we talk about the historical components of that. We talk about the infiltration into the Masonic lodges, and we talk about globalism, and we talk about all of the means of the traditional means that totalitarians or globalists have used to subjugate their people. So it's going to be fascinating. It's free.
Now, is this Tom, is this just you, or are you having a panel?
No, it's actually going to be a speaker that we have coming in, and he's going to be talking about it. So I even think a couple of my friends in law enforcement are going to show up, so I think it'll be fun.
Wow. That's interesting that you got the Meridian City Hall to do it. Usually they've shut us down there over the years.
Well, we did really good. We had a support your local police committee meeting there. That was very, very well received. I have friends, like I said, in Meridian PD that have really kind of helped us get along there. So we're really making headway. We're having a lot of good experiences, a lot of good Americans in uniform. We're just in a really volatile time in this country. A lot of emotion going on, a lot of misunderstanding. People are angry, and people don't realize that when you're angry, there's a need. It gives the appearance of a need to be controlled, and that's really what we need to try to walk through as gracefully as possible. So I appreciate you having me on this morning, Kevin.
All right, Tom, one more time. Where is it? When?
Meridian City Hall, 7 o'clock this Thursday night.
Tom, good luck with that.
33 East Broadway.
All right.
Thanks, man. It's going to be awesome.
Thank you. All right. Our friend Tom Munns. Conspiracies, trying to find out where they are, where they're going, and the past as it influenced the present. KIDO Talk Radio Time at 6:57, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work safely and on time. And Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436. 580 KIDO. Coming up next, we will go one on one concerning the government shutdown, concerning the wall, and the president doing the right thing. And yet you have tepid support from the Republicans, and the Democrats are sharpening their knives. We'll break it down for you coming up next. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning. Don't forget Bishop Kelly. We will be there on Friday, promoting our schools, securing our future once again. Brought to you by CapEd Credit Union and Team Mazda Subaru. Keep it here. Fox News next. Good morning.